Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, a 2008 comedy starring Martin Lawrence as Roscoe Jenkins. As a child, R.J. Stevens was the awkward brunt of numerous jokes. Now R.J. is a successful talk show host who dispenses advice and encouragement to millions. When his parents ask him to come home for their anniversary, R.J. vows to show everyone how much he has changed. Unfortunately, R.J.'s plans are no match for his Southern relatives. Headlined by Martin Lawrence, Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins also has a stellar cast, including Monique, Cedric the Entertainer, Mike Epps, Michael Clark Duncan, Joy Bryant, James Earl Jones, and Margaret Avery. Directed and written by Malcolm Lee, this 2008 film was the choice of Lynn Webb. Mm-hmm. Lynn, how would you like to begin our conversation around Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins?
Well, we've been doing the films of Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence this month. And we were in the year of 1999 for the first couple of weeks when we reviewed Bowfinger and Blue Streak. And now we're ending in 2008, a little bit further down the line on their filmographies and their careers with Meet Dave and Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. At this point in Martin Lawrence's career, in 2008, he's still a viable star, but his star has lost a little bit of his luster, right? And he hasn't been, the lead on as many, hit movies or movies in general at this time. We talked about earlier in the show that he suffered a bit of a personal setback in and around this time that he was dealing with. This marks a rare opportunity for Martin, though, not only to have see his name above the title, but be part of an ensemble, a decided ensemble when you look at the likes of his comedy brethren that are in this film. Monique, Michael Epps, Cedric the Entertainer, alongside the actors of James Earl Jones, Margaret Avery, Nicole Ari Parker, Michael Clark Duncan. So now Martin Lawrence doesn't have to carry the ball all by himself in the film. Martin Lawrence can actually kind of sit back and, be the fulcrum upon which everything turns in a film. For really the first time with such a noteworthy cast of actors around him, actors and performers. And that is a welcome sight for a lot of people who, like our letter writer earlier, and myself, maybe grown a little bit tired of the Martin Lawrence shtick. Right. That he would, his bag of tricks that he would go to in almost every movie. So now he gets to play that down in this movie where it sees him as, this star of this talk show, like you said. And because he's a star of a talk show, he finds his way to being in a relationship with Joy Bryant's character, Bianca, who was a winner of Survivor Series. So now these two celebrities are in orbit of one another and about to get married. Martin Lawrence's character, R.J. Stevens, or Roscoe Jenkins Stevens, or has a son that he is raising on his own, who longs for more time with his superstar father, so much so that he more or less books them to go down to their family reunion because he wants to see his family, and he's seeing this way of orchestrating time to be alone with his father. And Martin Lawrence's character, Roscoe, reluctantly agrees to go down because he has been 9 years away from his family. And you learn it's because of some misgivings in in regards to the way that his father raised him alongside his cousin, played by Cedric the Entertainer, who came in to move with them after his parents died in an accident. Going back home means that you're going to meet all of your wacky cousins and family. Mike Epps as the wacky, crazy cousin is right in his bag.
Yeah. Monique
as the gives no F's sister, who also has a special penchant for prisoners and conjugal visits. Yes. Then there's Michael Clark Duncan, who is the over-muscled big brother. Who has a over-muscled clan of himself, of his own, and his wife and his two children. And then you have their parents, all of these the matriarchs, the matriarch and patriarch are the family, James Earl Jones, Roscoe Jenkins Sr., and Margaret Avery as his beloved wife. And that, along with a whole assortment of characters, they all descend upon this huge home where they're going to have this huge 3-4 day family reunion. It's the family reunion of your dreams, ladies and gentlemen. I've never been to a family reunion like this. I've always wanted to go to a family
reunion. A multi-day one, really?
No, yeah, I've never been to a multi-day.
That's too bad.
Oh, maybe it's because we only went down for the day.
Maybe. Did you get your T-shirts though?
Yes, when we went down for the day.
All right, as long as you got your T-shirt.
You got to get your T-shirt.
Got to get your T-shirt.
Got to get your T-shirts. Right. We only went down for the day, and that was it. And it was.
All right.
So you see the setup. You see the setup. This is familiar territory that the writer-director Malcolm D. Lee is setting us up for.
Sure.
Right? This is familiar territory for comedy. And true to form, all of the beats that you are expected are hit.
Yes.
Monique does not vibe well with Bianca, the girlfriend, or fiance.
Yes.
They do not get along. She keeps calling her Bioyo, Blanca, Biacanca.
Yes.
Like everything but her government.
Yes.
Right. Mom misses her son, and just wish he would come home more. There's a tension between Roscoe, the two Roscoes, Jr. and Senior. The son, the son, he doesn't get enough time, so he's like, Dad, I want to be with you, Dad. I want to be with you. Cousin, played by Cedric the Entertainer, they have a huge rivalry that stems back from their childhood, where Cedric would beat Roscoe at every game possible, including time with the girl that they all wanted, played by Nicole Ari Parker.
Yeah.
Who, of course, now is hanging with Cedric the Entertainer, because we're
She calls him a familiar face.
Right. It's a familiar face. And sure, I'd love to go see your family. I love them as well. So all the beats are hit. Some of them, you even have the beats of, the family dog is this huge Labrador retriever. And of course, Bianca has a toy dog. And
you know where that's going.
You know where that's going.
Yeah.
And it goes there.
Yeah.
4 times in this movie.
Yeah.
So everything that you're expecting it to be hit, it's hit. So what you're really looking for is just, okay, if you're not going to give us any type of twist, then at least be funny when you hit these familiar beats.
Yes.
And your mileage may vary, ladies and gentlemen, but for me, I did not find very much of this film funny at all.
Oh.
In fact, the only parts of this movie that I found remotely funny is because you've got comedians, is because you got quick-witted comedians such as Monique and Mike Epps.
Yes.
There are scenes where it is quite evident that they are improvising.
Yeah.
And Michael D. Lee just let the camera go and just let them riff.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it's when scenes where the two of them are with each other.
Yeah.
That they're just riffing back and forth. You can literally see Monique trying to stifle laughing while she's delivering her lines. Those moments are funny, but those moments are few and far between in this film for me. Martin Lawrence, as the lead, supposed to be kind of like that fulcrum.
Yeah. And
this is the opportunity for Martin Lawrence to really get his Eddie Murphy on. Eddie Murphy, who we know can be the life of the party and can definitely lead this film in his sleep. But like we talked about in Coming to America, and like we talked about in Boomerang, when Eddie Murphy has to kind of like dial it back and just kind of like maybe be the straight man for a minute, he can do it. And he can do it well. Martin Lawrence cannot be a straight man. He can never be a straight man. He reminds me to that degree of Flip Wilson.
Interesting.
Flip Wilson, and I liked Flip Wilson.
Sure.
But there's a reason why Flip Wilson never became like a super movie star. And there's a reason why, as good as his show was, because it was a number 1 show back in the 70s, it doesn't, register as this heralded moment in sketch time because Flip Wilson could never be the straight man. Never. And Martin Lawrence can never be the straight man. It just doesn't play. To be fair, though, he's not helped by the very pedestrian script that Malcolm D. Lee has written. This script sounds like a first pass. Like I could almost, except for the moments where Monique and Mike Epps are riffing, you could almost see every joke coming to the degree that you knew the exact line that was going to be said. Like she's so fat because she's fat. Like it was that obvious type of jokes that were being set up in this movie. And because of that script not helping, now most of the comedians, they've gotten maybe a little bit of riffing. Cedric gets some riffing in. Mike Epps, I think Mike Epps rewrote his whole dialogue. And because he is mostly funny in the movie, right? He says one funny line that I had to write. Oh, talking to Bianca. Who's like, like this real like made up chick with the, very Hollywoodish, even though she's just a person who won Survivor.
Sure.
But she's going full Hollywood. And Mike kept said, heard something when they getting into it. Like, girl, I'd smack the cover girl off your face. I laughed at that line.
Right.
I did laugh at that line. But nothing else I laughed at. And despite the fact that Malcolm D. Lee made sure that every scene where there was supposed to be where he wanted there to be a laugh, you were told that, not by the script, but by a music stinger that was playing in there that kind of let you know.
Right. This is where you laugh.
This is where you laugh, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work for me. James Earl Jones, Margaret Avery are given pretty much nothing to do in this movie.
Sure.
And if you look at James Earl Jones and Margaret Avery in this film, written and directed by a black man, which means that I would expect that possibly he had a hand in the casting.
Sure.
There is no chromosome in the world where James Earl Jones and Margaret Avery give birth to Michael Clark Duncan, Monique, and Martin Lawrence. That math don't math at all. Michael Clark Duncan, he he's cast right for it because he's supposed to be this big muscular role.
Yes.
But it's the role that was built for Terry Crews, not Michael Clark Duncan. Because while he's not given much comedy to do, what comedy he is given to do, he doesn't get over because that's just not his strong suit. It's just not his strong suit. Cedric the Entertainer, he's another guy whose shtick never, I just wears thin on me, and it wore thin on me in this film. So at the end of the day, I know that there are people that enjoy Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not one of them.
Sure. I am. I'm going to say I really enjoyed this film.
Okay.
I think I'll start where you and I agree. I think the real strength of this film is these three chaotic elements that kind of bounce through, and that would be Mike Epps, Monique, and Cedric the Entertainer. Now, I 100% agree with you that not only were Mike Epps and Monique riffing and trying to, I think by the end, the two of them were actually trying to make each other break.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a moment towards the end where I don't think Malcolm Lee does any great direction, but I think the way he plays cat and mouse with
I know exactly
these
what
two
you're talking about. Yep.
trying not to catch them laughing was great. Cedric the Entertainer, here's what I like about this Cedric the Entertainer role. I think that there's always a bit of subversion in the Cedric the Entertainer kind of charming, kind of, said he said. Like there's very much a girl, where's my hug energy to Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of his persona. And that runs throughout this film. Like right under the surface, there's something a little skeevy, and it's not sharp at all, but I do think it's in the script that he is on unsettled ground because of his parents' death. So,
oh my.
So I actually liked
that's a bit
Cedric.
I'm sure it go ahead.
I don't think it is at all. It's right there. Like they actually say it in the script.
Okay.
So I agree with you. Margaret Avery, James Earl Jones might as well have, they had to get some old black people to put in there. And God knows I love Malcolm Lee, but they're like, you can tell oftentimes there are aspects of Malcolm Lee's films where he gets access to certain actors and certain attributes that I feel like people's managers didn't tell them that this is Malcolm Lee, not Spike Lee. Like they think it's his cousin and they end up here. And again, I like Malcolm Lee. But there are, like, you look at, films like this or Undercover Brother, and it's like, how did Malcolm Lee get fill in the blank? It's like, somebody thought it was.
They just heard Lee.
Yeah. I think Joy Bryant is a good sport throughout this film.
A good sport.
She's a good sport. I'm a big fan of Joy Bryant generally. I can't think off the top of my head opportunities where Joy Bryant got to be a little funny, got to be stretched a little bit. It's funny you're talking about people in different roles. This, I guess I'm just going to keep bringing her up even when she's not in the movie. And you know what I'm about to say? This felt like a Gabrielle Union role, which this is the role Gabrielle Union played in Top 5, where she plays this exact same role. Martin Lawrence, I think Martin Lawrence seems tired in this role. Like I think his energy was low.
Okay.
In this role. But the irony is, low energy Martin is just enough Martin for me.
Okay.
Like I agree, hanging this on him, I think is not something that came naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But low energy Martin, you know, it kind of worked for me. And when you do have there are one or two moments where he goes broad. Like one of the ongoing plot points is that he and his cousin, played by Cedric the Entertainer, had this race when they were young men.
Yeah.
And they recreate the race.
Mm-hmm.
And it's manic and it's broad. But this is a moment that's supposed to be manic and broad. And I liked he and Cedric together in that moment. To a certain degree, the two of them have a fist fight that breaks out over a dice game that I thought, talking about moments where I thought the direction lacked, it went too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene went too long, which if I do have a critique of Malcolm Lee's direction, that is my general critique. Things went too long.
They go too long. Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason on earth this film should have been almost 2 hours.
Nope.
Like there's really just not enough story in there. I also agree that this is a Terry Crews role that Michael Clarke Duncan is in. But I think Michael Clarke Duncan is funny. Michael Clarke Duncan is part of, without hyperbole, one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in my life in Anchorman. No, in Talladega Nights.
Okay.
So I actually liked big Michael Clarke Duncan.
I'm not saying he's not funny.
And to bring in Mike Epps. You're talking about Mike Epps and Monique. Mike Epps and Michael Clarke Duncan was funny to me, where he kind of makes fun of Michael Clarke Duncan, and he makes fun of his voice and his physicality. And, I thought you was Uncle Ben. Like, Nicole Ari Parker might as well, we needed somebody pretty.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I like Nicole Ari Parker. And you're right. You know exactly what this film is going to do. There's never a moment that surprises you. But I don't know. I kind of gave into it. I gave into the spirit of it. God knows, between Mike Epps, Monique, and I, like I said, I enjoyed Cedric. Between the three of them, it was enough to get me through. It's a family movie. As you said, we've seen at least 4 or 5 versions of this, including, Johnson Family Vacation, which is another version of this with Cedric the Entertainer. I think this is better than that.
Well, yeah.
I liked it.
Here's the other thing that this film did for me that was unforgivable.
Okay.
And even though it is a beat that you see coming, and that is, I mentioned how there is the tension between Roscoe and his son. His son doesn't, feel that he's connecting with his father, not spending time with his father. So in the midst of this big, recreation of the obstacle course and the race between the two cousins, all the kids, everybody else is still part of the race as well. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment where it gets to the wall, because this is literally like an obstacle course, and they've got to climb up the wall, and Roscoe's son can't make it.
Right.
And he's calling out to his, Dad, can you help me? And Roscoe gets down to help his son. But then he is chided by Cedric's character and lets his son drop.
Yes.
And continues on his own and goes on to win the race.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody gets on him about what he did to his son.
Yeah.
At the end, it is a heartbreaking moment in this film. But, and to be fair, perhaps as I watched every inch of this movie, I missed it. This movie does not give a moment where he addresses that moment with his son.
No, it doesn't.
It gives a little bit of a hero moment at the end. Spoiler for a 16-year-old movie.
That the plot immediately.
You know the plot immediately. Yeah, like when he breaks up with Bianca. Yeah. And the son is like, yeah, step. You know what I mean? So there's that little moment, but there's no moment as they go back to the family reunion, as he says all of these kind words to everybody else in his family. And as we knew from the beginning, gets his dance with Nicole Ari Parker. There is at no moment where you see him address what he did with his son. And the reason why that is unforgivable to me is because the movie really starts off, the first tension is between him and his son. Yeah. That's how the movie leads. Yeah. So if nothing else, you're thinking that the movie is going to be, there should be a through line at least about that. Sure. And while it is touched on, it is for most parts of the movie totally forgotten.
I was about to say, I think you're talking about this being a first or second draft. If there was a third or fourth draft, one of the changes I would have made
is to drop that storyline.
Is to drop the son completely.
Right.
Like the whole subplot, it's not even a subplot. The whole plot detail with the son is so unnecessary. Like there's plenty of story to explore without the son.
I know.
That to your point, you're talking about that's an unforgivable moment with the son. I think the entire film, the way it treats the son.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. You totally forget about him.
Right.
Or he just becomes like this also, like, go with your cousins, Right. And they don't really pay.
Even that isn't developed.
Not at all.
Like if the film is championing family and you got to come and be family, like you think there's going to be some payoff where the cousins now are a unit. That never happens.
Never happened.
Yeah, I think the son is the weakest part of the whole film.
Right.
Yeah.
Through no fault of the son it's own. It's just a failure of the writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, the reason why I don't forgive it is because, like I said, it's the first real setup that you have in the film. Yeah. And it's the impetus for him going down to the reunion.
But even that, just to continue down that, as you said, it's the first real setup, but it's told. It's not shown.
Right. That is true. That is true.
Like you never actually like there's this whole little bit about the son has this relationship
with the grandfather,
with his grandfather, played by James Earl Jones, that you never really see.
Yeah, you just see, hey, I'm going to go play catch with my grandson.
Even when Roscoe is guilted to go down there, the guilt is only tangentially connected to the son.
I know.
Like there's more urgency to the fact that he sent home this expensive television
that hasn't
been touched more so than the son.
I know.
Yeah, so I agree with you, but I'd actually pull back and say what's unforgivable is the way that the son is treated in this script.
But that still doesn't color your enjoyment of the film.
Well, because frankly, the son is forgettable.
Well,
like there's not a scene in here with his son that stuck with me as I'm talking about it. Like as you said, he doesn't help his son over, and it's a real heartbreaking and kind of nasty moment.
Yeah.
But this isn't that film that, speaking of something like Clifford, where it has this kind of kind of beautiful nastiness to it. Like, this isn't like the film that really is going to utilize that beat. Roscoe ends up married to Joy Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe there's him kind of, a look of regret if it's a better actor than Martin Lawrence.
Right.
But, it's not this film. I mean, hell, I feel like the force of the plot pushed him together with Nicole Ari Parker's character, because she has a nice little moment where she talks about what she thought her life was going to be,
mm-hmm.
and what it ended up being, student loans, and I don't even want kids, where there's a hint that this character is going to be a character.
Right.
And not just a MacGuffin that these two men, Cedric the Entertainer and Martin Lawrence's character, are fighting over.
Right.
And every now and then they give you a hint that
there's something more.
And that she's aware that these two are basically, they say it in the film, having a dick measuring contest using her as the prize.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you kind of hope that the film ends with her saying, I'm not an object to be fought over. I don't want to be with either one of you. But it's not that film.
No, not at all.
It's not that film, and
which is fair if it doesn't want to be that film.
Which is fair if it doesn't.
But then you've got to
be
better. The film that you are, you got to do it better.
And you can't pretend
to be something else.
To try, like, you can't make these gestures towards something else. But I do. I think the pros outweigh the cons. I think even when the film went off, I thought the pros outweighed the cons, and then I laughed throughout the entire credits.
Oh, okay. Yes.
There's a bit where Roscoe brings his family to his talk show.
And now he's interviewing them.
Including Michael Clark Duncan.
Yes.
Michael Clark Duncan, Monique, and Mike Epps. I watched the credits until they went off, hoping that something would come back on with one of them, so that, in a lot of ways, the end credits were like the frosting on top. That, I was already like, I like this, and then them. So I did. I enjoyed it. I think this is, well, you go talking about a fairly low bar. This is my favorite Martin Lawrence film.
Oh, it's not my favorite Martin Lawrence.
What do you like better than this?
Life.
Life is not a Martin Lawrence film.
Well, he's in it.
I mean, he's in a lot of movies.
Okay, but to be fair.
I mean, in that case, Do the Right Thing is my favorite Martin Lawrence film.
Is this a Martin Lawrence film, or is it an ensemble?
I think his name is above the title. I think he is the first among equals.
To be fair, let's look at the poster.
I mean, if you look at the posters, you look at the trailer, this is a Martin Lawrence film.
Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. His name is above the title.
Yeah, this is a Martin Lawrence film.
Okay.
Now, it's a backhanded compliment that my favorite Martin Lawrence film is damn near an ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an ensemble.
Yeah.
But okay, fair enough. Well,
but the question is, would you recommend Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins? Hey, don't feel peer pressured. Say it with your chest.
Because there's a part of me that wants to say, like, this is the great cookout movie. Someone in the kitchen while everybody's cooking, and everybody's, you catch something funny. Monique says something stupid. Mike Epps says something crazy. You know what I mean? He comes out in this cowboy outfit. And, you're laughing. So there's a part of me that wants to say that. I really, really do.
You don't have to.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't recommend Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. I won't be mad if you watch it.
Okay.
God bless, but I won't recommend that you do.
Sure.
But go ahead if you want to.
Right. I recommend it.
Well, of course.
I recommend it. I think I'm not going to say this is my favorite Mike Epps performance, but Mike Epps, the comedian, this might be in my top 3 Mike Epps performances. Like, I like Mike Epps better in this than I do either of the Friday sequels, which is probably his most high profile comedic performance. I really like Monique in this. I wanna. Yeah.
She's trying. Trying very hard.
She is. And she's the closest to the cast in my mind that is over the top. But it like she works for me.
See, Joy Bryant works for me in the movie.
I really like Joy Bryant. And I liked Martin. You know what it is? I got Martin Lawrence in this film. Like them saying that Martin Lawrence was this kind of Dr. Phil-esque
Steve Harvey
talk show host rang true to me. Like, I saw Roscoe Jenkins as someone who was actually charismatic. Like, one thing that along those lines at the end, of course he comes and he makes amends and he kind of gives a speech. But I like the fact that when he gave his speech, the scene was shot like it was him on his talk show.
Yeah, because now he was in his element.
He was in his element. He was very comfortable. And again, I believed it.
Okay.
I believed it. And oftentimes I have not believed Martin Lawrence as the fill in the blank in this film. We just mentioned top 5. I've never believed Chris Rock in any role that he's in, that he's not Chris Rock.
When he's the lead.
So that was, I liked Martin Lawrence. I thought he was, whether it's low energy, whether it was him just getting a little older, it was refreshing to see Martin Lawrence in a space where he wasn't trying to outlandishy, out Martin everyone, which as we've talked about, it does not happen that often in his film career when he is out front. He's all, I think the thing about Life and Bad Boys, frankly, I think he defers to Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And I think with Will Smith in the Bad Boys films, they are equal, but they are in different lanes.
Yes.
So that works. But besides that, this is the only film that I can think of with him, with other comedians. That we talked about it in Blue Streak. The best part of Blue Streak are the moments with him and Dave Chappelle.
That's right.
Where, as you said, they match energy. So yeah, I do. I recommend Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins.
It's interesting that in those 2 movies, well, the Bad Boy series and in Life, those are the films where he, like you said, in a different lane as his co-star on purpose. He is a little bit more dialed down, not as mugging. And actually creating a character.
Right.
And I think there was the missed opportunity of this film is that you hit on it when he is at the end addressing them at the family reunion. He's got the mic and he's in his element. He's in his world. And he's doing the thing where he found that he can be the winner.
Right.
The man. Right?
And if the script was sharper,
it would have played on that.
Yes.
Because that, especially as a talk show host, because that's a lot of talk show hosts. Off the mic, their personality, it's non-existent, or it's something totally different. You know what I mean? And I think it could have played with that. That calls for 2, 3, 4 more passes on the script.
Yes.
You know, and it could still be a comedy. It could still be set in this world. This world will be the perfect setting to examine that type of thing.
Sure.
And thus, like you said, getting rid of the sun gives you the space,
opens up some space
to really get there. You know what I mean? So yeah, missed opportunity with Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins.